Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of In Liberty and Health. Sorry, I just had to clear my throat. Hopefully, everybody's doing well. Hopefully, you all had a fantastic weekend with your families. I know I certainly did. I worked yesterday, but not a big deal. Afterwards, it was still a lot of fun. Um, unfortunately, there was a streak in me that maintained optimism and kind of hoped that Trump was going to pull a Trump card and not send U.S. servicemen and women to die in a war for Israel, which this is what this is. There was a hope that things were going to kind of come over and, there was going to be a peaceful outcome, essentially. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. We have now entered a war of choice with Iran. People are running victory laps already, and I think it's a little premature. We have some dead Americans. It's tough to say exactly how many, but we're going to try to do our best to make sense of all of it today. Hopefully, everybody's doing well. Eddie Grimm, good to see you. Lots to cover. I got a few stories up already. Like it's the normal show, probably go like an hour or so. But if you're here, thank you so much. If you're a channel member, I want to give an extra thank you to you. So make sure, shout out to the channel members: Abrogate D's, B Cornish, Trey 50 Daniel, Rachel Wilson, who's just on Joe Rogan, which is really cool, Gage WL12, and Lee R. Silver. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. And please, if you're listening right now, please consider becoming a channel member on YouTube, where you'll get access to all Common Crown footage, and there will be some up this coming weekend, probably Sunday, and if not Sunday, then sometime during that week. We'll figure something out. I don't know if I'll be back here next Sunday in time to do a show, but we'll figure it out one way or another. So, anyways, hopefully everybody's doing well. We got a lot to cover, and just bad news all around, but hopefully things start to cool off going into the week. We'll see, but it doesn't look like the Iranians are joking around this time, but who knows? I've talked to a bunch of people about kind of how this could go down, and it does seem like they use negotiations as a smokescreen to get Iran to let their guard down. But before we get into the rest of today's show, one more time, hit the like button. Please go over to tigerfitness.com/KyleM or go to tigerfitness.com and just use code Kyle at checkout to let them know that you support the Matovcik family as we support you by giving you this information, and of course, by bringing you supplements from tigerfitness.com. And Fox Sons Coffee, use code Kyle at checkout. And of course, commoncrown.com, the great Megalodon, all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's rock and roll into today's show. All right, one more time. Hopefully everybody out there, wherever, however you're doing, hopefully you're doing well. Yeah, just crazy stuff over the week. I woke up Saturday morning and found out that we are now at war with Iran, which is kind of nuts. I really wasn't expecting that to happen. I figured there were going to be strikes eventually, or there was going to be some diplomacy, but I didn't expect a full-on war. And there's people that are saying, "Oh, it's not a war if it only lasts this long." We got to maintain the same standard all the way around, because if China, Iran, or Russia had started bombing the United States, we would consider that an act of war. So when we do it to another country, I think it's fair to say that that is considered a war. Um, and even Matt Walsh, of all people, is agreeing with me on this, who's, I think, a little bit more optimistic about the Trump administration. And he actually had a fairly reasonable take. So, you know what? I'll actually throw that up here now, and we'll just kind of get into all of today's stories here. Let me move myself and zoom in a little bit. Okay, if you're a proponent of this war, so be it. Make your case. But lecturing skeptics for not, quote unquote, trusting Trump is the dumbest argument you could possibly make. It's perfectly reasonable for Americans, yeah, he had a little mistype here, for Americans to be skeptical of regime change wars in the Middle East. I'm going to repost that. Trump himself was skeptical of them. The idea that we are obligated to just assume it's a good move because Trump decided to do it is asinine, not to mention un-American. I got to give it to Walsh there. As much as I think he's a goofball sometimes, it's a pretty reasonable take. And I think it's pretty reasonable for all people who kind of follow these things or follow any kind of political engagements are well within their right to be skeptical of these kind of things. And like I said, I think Walsh is right on the money here. So, and by the way, for all those listening, if you're not following me on Twitter, I am still working on getting my old account back, but please follow me at Matovcik343 on Twitter. We're still working on getting, oh, I don't follow Anya on this account, but we're still working on getting it back. We'll see what happens. Hopefully I get it back, but if not, then it just is what it is. So let's go to NBC News where they have live updates. US troops killed as Iran retaliates with strikes after the death of the supreme leader. 3 US service members have been killed in action and 5 others were seriously wounded, the US military said in a statement Sunday. What to know? US service members killed. 3 US service members have been killed in action, and 5 more were seriously wounded in military operations against Iran, US military said today. Supreme leader shock. Israel launched a new wave of strikes in Tehran today as it continued to hit targets in Iran after a day after killing the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, which, I've seen people jumping up and down celebrating about this. And there's something to me that's kind of disgusting about just celebrating the bombing of countries. Um, and I've made this point plenty of times before, and I'll make it again that I think we are better than the Israelis, we as Americans, and that we shouldn't celebrate the unnecessary death of people, especially people who don't know about this conflict. And you see a lot of people popping off because it's like the current thing. But anybody who's been listening to this show for a long period of time know that I've been discussing this for years now. But Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was willing to engage in negotiations. He engaged in good faith. He did restraint, exercise great restraint for years and years and years, despite the US negotiating in bad faith and targeting them, and the Israelis receiving aid from the US and bombing them and assassinating their officials, assassinating scientists and bombing their airport in Syria, or the consulate in Syria. I apologize. He was very restrained. Now, what we don't know is what comes next. And I know I entitled the show "What's Next," but we really don't know what's next. Ayatollah Khamenei had a fatwa against nuclear weapons, and I think he was probably a major figure in making sure that Iran didn't get a nuclear weapon. When you don't have that deeply religious figure who's committed to his religious principles and morals, who knows what comes next, especially after you just essentially made this man a martyr. He wasn't hiding or anything like that, and we're going to cover this here in a video here shortly, but he wasn't like hidden in a bunker. He was living his life normally, and the US and Israel had now chosen to kill him. So whatever comes next is anybody's guess, and my guess would be that it's not going to be somebody that's as restrained as Ayatollah Khamenei was. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. But anybody that's throwing up mission accomplished and celebrating or saying that it's World War III, I think they're getting a little over their skis, but it's tough to know right now because we're still, things are still developing. There was another story where Iran had been in communication with the US and the US had proposed a ceasefire. Trump said he wanted a ceasefire and Iran rejected it, which to me seemed pretty predictable because I think they see this as a fight for their existence. Both Trita Parsi and Dr. Morandi, who's from Iran, both of those guys were normally pretty conservative in their estimates about how Iran would retaliate in a situation like this. Neither one of them seemed that they weren't being hyperbolic, but they seemed to indicate that Iran is going to be serious this time around. And clearly we see that it seems like they are. One more time, everybody, please make sure you hit the like button below. Let's keep this stream going in the algorithm. Yeah, Iran retaliates. Air raid sirens sounded in Tel Aviv as Iran fired back at Israel. The Israeli military said it was working on intercepting the incoming missiles. One important thing to remember is that the US used 20% of their THAAD interceptor missiles during the 12-day war. So, Iranian Minister Abbas Araghchi warned the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Iraq that they could become legitimate targets if they allowed the US and Israel to use their territory to attack Iran. The death toll. More than 200 have died in Iran following the US and Israeli strikes, according to the Iranian Red Crescent Society. 10 people have been killed in Israel, 8 today in a single strike, and as Iran and its enemies trade blows, 2 in the UAE. Ayatollah Ali Reza Arafi has been appointed as the jurist member of Iran's leadership council, the body temporarily running Iran after Khamenei's killing, and other members include President Masoud Pezeshkian and Judiciary Chief, I'm not even going to try to say that, Ajay. In the U.S. consulate attack, at least 9 people were killed in a protest outside the U.S. consulate in Pakistan's port city of Karachi as local police clashed with protesters entering their premises. New updates. 3 U.S. service members killed in Kuwait. This was just 2 minutes ago. Regime's like a tumor. That's what citizens say. Massive explosions heard in central Tehran. So now, if I'm reading this correctly, we have probably a little over, probably close to a dozen people killed. Iran had thrown out numbers saying that it was about a dozen or like 200 U.S. service members were killed. I don't know how true that is. I tend to think that they're probably trying to embellish their numbers a little bit to look a little bit tougher, but who knows? It's just tough to say right now because once again, there's still a lot of chaos. It's the fog of war, and there's still a lot going on. So, ugh, just not good. One thing that just drives me nuts is the people who are saying that we're supposed to like celebrate or be happy about the way that their citizens are reacting. And it's funny because like a lot of these same people who are saying, "Oh, look at how happy these Iranians are the ones that are celebrating the fact that we're bombing their country. We're literally destroying where they live. And yeah, there's people celebrating, but like they're not Americans. Why am I supposed to care about the reaction of people celebrating a foreign country?" And there's Iranians waving flags in the streets here in America. I thought we didn't like people waving foreign flags in America. So where are the people protesting this? I just, we need to be consistent in the way that we view these things. I don't want Iranians waving Iranian flags in America because this is America. If you don't like America, then what, you can leave, but also this country isn't meant for people to come here and then use our government, use our taxpayer dollars, use our military to destabilize other countries so that way they have somewhere to go back to. A country should serve its citizens. And as far as I'm concerned, Iran poses no major threat to Americans. Anybody telling you that they do, they don't have missiles that reach over here. And even if they did station an aircraft carrier or send an aircraft carrier on the way to America, we would see that from miles and miles and miles away. Like these flight trackers that people watch, you would see this like days and days in advance. So you can't tell me that Iran poses some serious threat to America. Anybody that's telling you that they do has just bought into the latest propaganda because Iran poses zero threat to Americans. They've killed zero Americans until this weekend. Everybody talking about the Beirut barracks bombing. That was just some instability in the country at the time. That wasn't Iran. You could say they had something to do with it, but there's no proof of that. The roadside bombs were largely technology that Iran got from our CIA back in the day. So it's not even like Iran participated in that. They were still engaged in negotiations. Marco Rubio was supposed to go to the country on Monday, which, good luck. Marco Rubio isn't really much of a diplomat, but the idea we were supposed to continue negotiations. Like these deals aren't just done like that. And what the US was proposing for Iran were complete and total non-starters. And now you're expecting them to climb down after you just bomb the living shit out of their country, including an all-girls school when there were children in that school. No sane country would just tolerate you blowing up a school. Venezuela tolerated getting an apartment building blown up because what's Venezuela going to do to America? I mean, it's just clear we would just walk all over them if they really did. It's immoral, but that's we're dealing with the what Mearsheimer quotes is the tragedy of great power politics. So, but Iran, same deal. Like if they really wanted to come over here and mess with the United States, there's no chance. You guys kidding? The other thing my friend Tommy Sams had pointed out is that the Persian Muslims aren't the same type that would do suicide bombings or mass terrorism. This is a very sophisticated culture that's been around for a very, very long time. Who knows what their moves are going to be next? But let me pull up the story from what website is it? KCRA. strike zones. These maps show where the U.S. and Israel hit Iran in retaliation against U.S. bases. So
the images of smoke-filled skies continue to come out of the Middle East as the U.S. data map shows Iran's command map shows 11 of the many governments
as you can
and
see,
international media reports.
Strikes on Western
this
Iran.
Map shows 11 of the many strikes that targeted several regions across Iran.
Why
are they significant? The districts throughout Tehran are associated with Iran's command,
the United States and Israel have launched coordinated military strikes across
Tehran
Iran on Saturday,
is also home
hitting
to
the capital city of Tehran and several provinces.
Satellite images show smoke rising from that compound
following warnings
and
from the
clear
U.S. of
damage to one of the main buildings. Other areas are consistent with more than 45 known nuclear and missile sites.
President Donald Trump
documented
posted on
prior
social
to U.S.
media that
airstrikes
the
in
Iranian
June
state media confirmed
2025.
Khamenei's death and reported death
Isfahan
tolls
was
from the operation
previously a
exceeded 200
documented
people.
site of nuclear research
The
in
Get the
Iran.
Facts data team aggregated
Kermanshah
information on
and
strike
Tabriz
locations.
have
Details
both been
came in from
linked
multiple
to missile
sources, including the
Within
AP,
hours of the
CNN,
strikes,
Israeli
Iran
media outlets,
launched
Iranian state
retaliatory
agencies, and satellite
operations
imagery,
against Israel
verified social
and
media
Middle East
reports.
countries where the
Mapping the
U.S.
strikes
has
on
military
Iran.
bases.
So you could
Reports
see
confirmed those
Easter,
locations
the
include
Tabriz,
Bahrain,
East
Qatar, the
Azerbaijan
United Arab
province.
Emirates,
There was a
Iraq,
strike.
Jordan, and Kuwait.
Kermanshah,
So, what happens next? Well, Iran has vowed to continue its
Lorestan
retaliation.
province,
While President Trump
Isfahan,
said these initial strikes are just part of a broader strategy to eliminate any threats of a nuclear program in Iran.
and
It's unclear if
Sayed
ongoing talks
Khandan
aimed
area,
at a nuclear
Tehran.
agreement
And then
will
there's one
continue.
area,
In
Manab,
Washington,
which
I'm
is
national
where the school
in
is.
Washington, I'm national investigative correspondent.
That's where all the strikes were. There's nuclear sites all over. Sagand, Yazad. So they did hit Isfahan again. Karaj, Banab. So yeah, they didn't hit the same ones again. While most strike locations are general areas, satellite imagery confirmed damage in Tehran at the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's compound, billowing smoke near the Ministry of Intelligence offices, in addition to damage reported across Iran's capital city. President Donald Trump confirmed Saturday evening that Khamenei has been killed as a result of the operation that pummeled the Middle Eastern country. Witnesses near the intelligence ministry told the Associated Press they heard multiple explosions following by air defense activity. Several strike areas align with the region's long associated Iranian military strategic targets. Isfahan, a site of major nuclear research and conversion facilities, Qom province, near deeply buried uranium enrichment infrastructure, Kermanshah and Tabriz, areas linked with missile storage and launch history, and Tehran districts associated with command, intelligence, and logistical operations. Iranian state TV reported that 85 people were killed in a strike on a school near Manab, near the Hormozgan province of southern Iran. So here we are, Iran's retaliatory escalation. Within a few hours of the strikes, Iran responded by launching missiles and drones toward Israel and some of the 20 U.S. military bases across the region. Israel's military said dozens of missiles were fired, with many intercepted. So here, reports indicate Iran has targeted at least 6 of the 20 military bases in the Middle East, striking at least one. So the one in UAE was targeted in the Al Dafra, the Qatar, the Al Udeid, which that was kind of predictable. Erbil Air Base was targeted, and the Mawafik Salti Air Base. Those ones were targeted, and then the one in Oman has been targeted. One in Saudi has been targeted. The one in Bahrain has been struck. The Sheikh Air Base. Syria hasn't really been targeted. Turkey has been targeted. But there are reports saying that Israel wants to start pissing off Turkey next. Various reports confirm Iran targeted installations in Qatar, UAE, Northern Iraq, Jordan, and Kuwait. U.S. base in Bahrain that houses the Navy's Fifth Fleet was also a target, with video from social media obtained by CNN showing an apparent strike and explosion on the edge of the airbase. Iran has vowed to continue retaliatory action, declared that the U.S. and Israeli regional assets are now legitimate military targets. Trump described the operation as major combat operations and framed it as part of a broader strategy to eliminate threats posed by Iran's nuclear and missile programs, urging Iranians to rise against their leadership. There's background audio playing. The video. Oh, geez. Wow. I am so sorry, guys. That should be better now. The video should be done. Yeah, it wasn't muted for me. I must have had it playing from a different thing. You guys hear me now? Should be good. Oh, boy. All right. Yeah, they hit lots of okay, there we go. Yeah, it's good now. It was only like 45 seconds. Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry about the audio mix up there. Yeah, basically, they kind of went all out. Not good, not good. We'll see what happens. Yeah, it was only like 45 seconds. Okay. All right. Yeah, sorry. I was just kind of reading through there, not paying attention to the comments. So yeah, it does seem like they're gonna go all out and they're gonna keep going with strikes. I wanted to find a where is it? There was a specific article or something saying Trump was seeking a ceasefire. Where was it? Iran declines ceasefire. It's June ceasefire 2026. Iran update, the Institute of Study of War 2 days ago, June 15th. Broad support among unsurprised Israelis. Yeah, it's tough to say. Saturday, February 28th. Yeah, I'm not really finding anything. I did see reports saying that the Israelis, or I'm sorry, Trump was looking to get a ceasefire with Iran. There we go. I switched my audio. Um, that Trump was looking for a ceasefire from Iran and they declined, which I can't really say was surprising. Like we basically bombed the shit out of them, and then we kind of want them to back down. Yeah, I don't know. Let me run that real quick and get this stuff all situated. All right, we're going to take a second today to chill and tell you about the show's sponsors, Tiger Fitness. Make sure you go to the link below to get all the supplements that I use day in, day out, and beyond. As I always say, you do not need supplements to become all jacked and tan or to progress in your health journey, but they could definitely be a useful tool in that respect. So as you can see on tigerfitness.com, we got MTS Nutrition, Blackstone Labs, Ambrosia, HPN, Nutrix Research, America Labs, Alani New, Pump Chasers, there's Redcon One, Accent Sledge, plenty of different companies that pretty much have absolutely any supplement you could possibly think of. Pre-workouts, fat burners, BCAAs, electrolyte mixes, you name it, it's on there. So go to Tiger Fitness through the link below. Use code Kyle at checkout to let them know that I sent you. Get your protein powder, you name it, anything that's going to help you stick to your diet and hopefully achieve your health goals. All right, thanks. Back to the show. Yeah, bull rush. Is your criticism that the U.S. shouldn't attack Iran because they don't pose a significant threat to the U.S.? I would go further than that, say they pose zero threat to the U.S. And it's not even for the benefit of Americans. And even Marco Rubio pretty much has said as much. There's really no reason that the U.S. had to do this. There was no imminent threat, like Trump said. The Iran's military has no capability to get over here to the US or use strikes or anything like that to get over here. It literally is basically just it is for Israel. This is a long-standing thing, and Trump is kind of the guy to do it. So anyways, there was a update here. Get out of the way. There we go. Trump said the U.S. has destroyed and sank 9 Iranian naval ships and largely destroyed Iran's naval headquarters. Just been informed that we've destroyed and sunk 9 Iranian naval ships. Some of them were relatively large and important. We are going after the rest. They will soon be floating at the bottom of the sea. Also, in a different attack, we largely destroyed their naval headquarters. Other than that, their navy is doing very well. Yeah, I don't know how true that is, but also both sides are going to do everything they can to save face right now because I think the U.S. is going to try to minimize casualties because it doesn't look good on the Trump White House if they are having massive casualties. So in other news, Bibi is running off at the mouth again as well. So let's blow this up. Let me make sure we're all locked in here. Netanyahu says strikes on Iran will go stronger in the coming days and that the campaign supported by the U.S. has enabled him to do what I've longed to do for 40 years, strike the terrorist regime hip and thigh. I just concluded a meeting with the Minister of Defense, the Chief of the General Staff, and the head of the Mossad. I issued directives for the continuation of the campaign. Yesterday, we eliminated the tyrant Khamenei. Along with him, We eliminated dozens of regime's top oppressive figures. Our forces are now striking at the heart of Tehran with intensifying force, and this will only grow stronger in the coming days. That said, these are painful days. Yesterday here in Tel Aviv and now in Beit Shemesh, we lost dear people. My heart goes out to the families. On behalf of all of you, citizens of Israel, I send wishes for the recovery to the wounded. We're in a campaign in which we're bringing the full might of the IDF as never before to this battle and ensure the existence and our future. We're also bringing to this campaign the support of the United States, my friend, President Donald Trump, and the U.S. military. This combination of forces enable us to do what I've longed to do for 40 years, to strike the terrorist regime at hip and thigh. That's what I promise, and that is what we will do. Ugh. Not good. Why do you think the U.S. chose to act against Iran? Because Israeli donors for the most part. And Trump, I think, does believe a lot of the BS about Iran building a nuke. His own intelligence, you could see this back in, I think it was March of last year, where Tulsi Gabbard had explicitly said that Iran has no intentions of building a nuke. Even back when the U.S. was in the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, that limited their enrichment to 3.67% and allowed inspectors in there. It released some sanctions. So, like, I've talked about this before on the show, where when people talk about either Joe Biden or Barack Obama giving Iran money, first of all, we seized, I think it was billions and billions of dollars from Iran back in the 60s or 70s. I can't exactly remember off the top of my head, but we seized a lot of money off of them way back in the day, right? So not only do we steal a bunch of money off them, they've been one of the most sanctioned countries in the world. So I just looked this up recently, but I want to make sure I got this right. List of the most sanctioned countries in the world. I know let's see. We'll pull this up here. Oh, sorry about that. Let me zoom in a little bit so that way everybody can zoom in. As the 2025, 2026 most heavily sanctioned countries in the world are led by Russia, which surpassed Iran, North Korea, and Syria following the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. These nations, along with Cuba and Venezuela, are subject to comprehensive sanctions, including financial restrictions, asset freezes, and trade embargoes. So Russia is number 1, Iran is number 2, Syria is number 3, North Korea is 4, Venezuela is 5, so on and so on. So I was right that Iran is one of the most sanctioned countries in the world. So Obama, when he got into the JCPOA, had relieved some of the sanctions. And what people will do is they'll say that the money that was now available to Iran because of sanctions relief was money given to Iran, when that's just not true. That was their money. So if I steal something from you and give it back, that's not me just giving you money. That's returning something that was wrongfully stolen from you. What really should have happened is that Trump negotiates a deal, offers some sanction relief, which he never did, and then say, hey, we'll give you sanction relief if you basically just limit your uranium enrichment, which even, like, there were reports this past week saying that they would have greatly limited their uranium enrichment for the next 3 to 5 years. And also what I'd do is probably get some sanctions relief. Like, you don't even have to take off all sanctions, just relieve some of them. So there were so many better ways to do this. And it seems pretty clear that Trump was pushed into this and willingly pushed into it by very, very bad actors who, let's face it, largely are Zionist or Jewish. Let's go to this story here from Newsweek. 9 dead after hundreds storm U.S. consulate in Pakistan. At least 9 people have died during clashes between police and protesters who stormed the U.S. consulate in Pakistan, port city of Karachi, local police have said. Hundreds of Shiite protesters targeted the consulate on Sunday morning after the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran on Saturday, killing the country's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The protesters broke the windows and set a vehicle ablaze outside the main gate, according to the Associated Press and Reuters. Why it matters: the U.S. and Israeli strikes on Saturday struck multiple targets in Iran, killing at least 200 people, injuring over 740, according to Iran's Red Crescent. Per state television, the death toll is expected to grow as more reports come in. The Islamic Republic then launched retaliatory strikes across U.S. bases in the Middle East, widening the conflict. President Donald Trump said the strikes were intended to cripple Iran's nuclear and missile capabilities and urged Iranians to overthrow their leaders once the operation ends, telling them to take over your government. Iran repeatedly denied pursuing a nuclear weapon and had engaged in diplomatic talks with the U.S. only days earlier to prevent military conflict, which this does seem pretty consistent with everything that they've said is just they don't want to build a nuclear weapon, but if anything, I think they pretty much have given them the guarantee that they will, I shouldn't say guarantee they will, but make the likelihood that they go for a nuke a lot higher. Before I go to this next clip, everybody, please leave a super chat if you would be so kind. Leave a thumbs up on the video and all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Marines tend to frown upon people attacking their embassies. So let's go to this video, and this is about what happened with Ayatollah Khamenei. So a reporter was interviewing a security official. Why was Khamenei at his residence during the strike? He insisted on living normally without hiding in bunkers. He stayed among his people in his home until the end. The empire killed him from the sky. He died standing. That's not arrogance. That's courage, and history will remember. I don't know if this is in English. Probably not. Yeah. So it's not in English, but I don't think he planned on hiding because Ayatollah Khamenei was 86 years old. And when you kill the leader, you're more than likely going to embolden more radical actors in your regime and people underneath you because they now view him as a martyr because the great Satan, as they call it, had killed him. Let's see. Go to Max Blumenthal's tweet. Ynet's Nahum Barnea. Blow that up there. Trump seeks a ceasefire as regional escalation grows. Decapitation strikes fail to produce regime change. Barnea is a barometer of centrist Israeli opinion. Trump seeks swift end to Iran operation. Opinion: the killing of Iran's supreme leader is a major intelligence and military feat, but Tehran's regime has not collapsed. U.S. official via mediator proposed an immediate ceasefire. Iran rejected it outright as Trump looked for a quick exit. On the eve of the strike on Iran, U.S. officials envisioned a 4 to 5 day operation that would return a weakened Tehran to the negotiating table. According to one source, an American official conveyed an even more immediate proposal. Though through a mediator, apparently Italy, he suggested reaching a ceasefire agreement today or tomorrow. Iran rejected the idea outright, which this is kind of something that I've been warning about for quite a while now, that it's not always a safe bet that if you continue to poke the bear, which the metaphorical bear is Iran, then they're always going to respond in a restrained way. It seems like this is the case as well, that they're just not going to be restrained anymore. They're going to go attack assets in the region. They're now attacking Israel. It's not good. There were, as I've said throughout the show, and as I said for weeks now, there were so many better ways to go about this. Trump could have been the guy to do it too, to basically get back into something like the JCPOA with perhaps less sanctions relief. But I mean, it seemed pretty clear that Iran was willing to negotiate. Hey, Lear Silver, good to see you, brother. Like you said on X, we knew this was going to pop off. Yeah. I said for weeks now that basically it's just not a safe bet to think that you can keep striking a country and assume that they're just going to keep being cool with it and say, hey, we're going to call you in advance, evacuate the Aludade Air Base. We're going to hit the corner where the janitor stores his shit. And then we'll see you guys here in a few weeks and we'll talk again. Seems like this time they're just not going to do that. And like, this is going to drag on a little bit. So I don't know. I'm seeing so many people saying that like, oh, look, this is over already. I don't think so. We're still only not even 2 months away from the strike in Venezuela and capturing of Maduro. And we're only not even 48 hours past the strikes in Iran. So what happens next is anybody's guess. Like I said, I think what's going to happen is Iran's going to continue to strike assets in the region. The death count from America is going to go higher, and there's going to be probably more Iranians killed, but I don't think the Iranians are going to continue to take this lying down. And as me and Nico covered on Wednesday, during the 12-day war, in order to intercept some of the Iranian missiles, that was the U.S. used 20% of their THAAD interceptor missiles in the 12-day war alone. If this extends longer than a week or two, I don't think we replenish that much of our capacity. So is it safe to say that we're going to continue to be able to, fight them off? I don't know, man. Yeah, Bull Rush, I can respect that. If you admit that, I respect that. I follow this stuff pretty closely, and there's still a lot that I don't know, and I'm willing to admit when I don't know. I see people all the time, once again, trying to claim one way or another. Like when I see people say World War III, I don't think so, because Russia and China don't operate in the same way the US does, where they don't have defense guarantees with other countries, where they would go to war with another country if they started fucking with one of the other countries. That's just not the way they operate. They're much more restrained and diplomatic in the way they operate as countries. The US isn't diplomatic in that respect at all. So, but when I see people saying that, oh, this is over, this is great, this was an awesome operation, I don't think so either. I don't think anybody really knows. It's still way too early. We can have ideas about where things will go, and this seems to be in accordance with, or I should say, away from how Iran typically responds to things, because typically they wouldn't go after U.S. assets in the region without telegraphing the way they would do the strikes. When the whole 12-day war, right? So back in June, they had basically let the U.S. know in advance that they're going to do some strikes on the Qatari Al Udeid airbase. They did. No one got hurt. Some assets got destroyed, but that was pretty much it. And then when they killed Ayatollah, or not Ayatollah Khamenei, but Qasem Soleimani back in 2020, they telegraphed that they were going to do some strikes. They did some strikes. No U.S. casualties. I think maybe one person was hurt, but that was about it. This time, they're actually going after U.S. assets in the region and not telegraphing what they're going to do. Missiles have been intercepted, but for how long can the U.S. and their allies, intercept these missiles? I don't think anybody knows, because they haven't had to anticipate this kind of, strike. And there's Iranian officials now saying that they basically just like skimmed from the top of their assets. Like, they're using old shit to attack the U.S. and they already started killing some troops in the region. So if they're going to continue this, then I mean, they still have weapons that the U.S. has no idea about. I have a friend who's been very pro-administration regarding things like Venezuela and support of Israel. Even he was taken back by this and asked if all we're doing is playing leader whack-a-mole. It seems like it, but the problem is that they already have successors of successors of successors. After Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was eliminated, they still have people in line that are ready to take up the leadership. So, and this was the point that I think I even made back when the 12-day war popped off, was like, okay, you have now basically crossed the Rubicon into striking Iran. You've only kicked the can down the road because the fundamentals of this conflict are still completely unsettled. The U.S. struck Iran because on the basis of the lie that they're building nuclear weapons. So you struck Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordow. They still want to seek nuclear enrichment. So really, the settlement should have been like, we need to figure out how to at least get inspectors in there or limit their enrichment, which the JCPOA did, which Trump left in 2019. Hey, GageWO12, good to see you too. It's a reasonable concern. Yes, I think it's reasonable to be concerned about people over there right now, because once again, Iran is clearly showing they're willing to escalate. We don't know how long they'll be willing to escalate. We don't know the extent of their military capabilities. So when you do something like this without that knowledge, you're risking a lot of things, right? This is a very risky move, and I don't know if Trump's going to be able to navigate this one as safely as he's been able to navigate other situations. I feel like things will escalate here in America because of this. Gage, lay that out a little bit more, because I want to engage with this a little bit, but I want to make sure that we're kind of on the same wavelength here. So I'm curious what you mean. I think I have an idea, but I want to make sure I get at your point. All right. But with the fact that Iran is escalating now and they're hitting U.S. assets in the region, they've killed Americans now, then I don't think Trump is going to back down, because how can you back down after Iran has now killed Americans? Trump said that he's okay with sacrificing Americans, which to me seems a little ridiculous, because it's a war of choice. There was no imminent threat, but now that we've done this and they're striking American assets in the region, and they're rejecting a ceasefire, then now what? They have the USS Gerald R. Ford and the USS Abraham Lincoln over there that have, our aircraft carriers and are, basically sitting ducks now. Who knows what happens next? Let's cover this last article from Al Jazeera. I'm probably going to wrap up a little bit early, but guys, feel free to leave a comment. I'll engage with you as long as I can. And if you would be so kind, feel free to leave a super chat. Those will be prioritized and would go a long way in helping me out. U.S.-Israel attacks on Iran, death toll and injuries live tracker. So let me refresh this to make sure we got the most current news up to date. Actually, you know what? I'm going to update. Let me see if there's any updates here. 2 updates. 4 minutes ago on 104. Actually, let me go back to NBC because they got actually good updates here. Um, Trump says U.S. ahead of schedule and suggests possible decapitation of Iranian leadership. President Trump told NBC News that the U.S. strikes are ahead of schedule and suggested one possible outcome from the attacks is decapitating Iran's leadership. We expect casualties with something like this. We have 3, but we expect casualties. In the end, it's going to be a great deal for the world, referencing 3 U.S. soldiers who died in Kuwait during the operation. As what the outcome he would like to see, Trump described the possible scenarios. There are many outcomes that are good. Number one is decapitating them, getting rid of their whole group of killers and thugs, which the killers and thugs are their own people that the U.S. stuck Starlink terminals in, and the Mossad was in there killing the protesters as well. We could do the short version or the longer version. Trump also said Iranian officials are interested in continuing talks with the U.S., but declined to say where the U.S. will pause strikes during the diplomatic efforts. I don't know, he said. If they can satisfy us, they haven't been able to. Trump said again he launched the airstrikes because Iranians weren't willing to stop their nuclear research and weren't willing to say that they will not have a nuclear weapon, which Ayatollah Khamenei had a fatwa. I've laid this out plenty of times. It's always funny that people say Iranians and Muslims throw gay people off roofs because if that's how intense their religious beliefs are and their religious convictions. But apparently, when Ayatollah Khamenei puts out a fatwa, a religious decree against getting nuclear weapons, apparently he doesn't take that seriously, but they'll throw gay people off roofs. Like, there's this contradiction here in what I'm saying, and no one seems to recognize that. And yeah, I don't get it. Search for victims on strikes. Let me blow that up. Sorry. Search for victims of strike on girls' school in Iran has ended with 165 dead, Fars News says. The governor of Manab County announced the end of the search and recovery operations for the student victims in a strike on a girls' primary school in southern Iran, according to the semi-official Fars News agency. The bodies of 165 victims were recovered from beneath the rubble of the Shajara Tayyab school out in the town of Manab. The governor said NBC News could not independently confirm the reported casualties. Further details about the circumstances of the strike and identity of the victims were not immediately available. No other updates here, so we'll go back to Al Jazeera. A fatwa is a religious decree from a leader, particularly in Muslim religion. Let me make sure I got that completely definitionally right because I don't want to mislead you, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Fatwa declaration. Okay, yeah. Fatwa is a non-binding legal opinion on Islamic law issued by a qualified expert in response to a specific question, not a simple declaration. Only authorized jurists with deep knowledge of Sharia, Quran, and Hadith can issue a fatwa. It serves as an advice on legal matters or at times address public, political, or doctrinal issues. So that's like just the quick AI definition of a fatwa. But basically, the summary is that it's a religious decree against or on an issue. So, like I said, they've had a fatwa against nuclear weapons, and Ayatollah Khamenei was the one who had the fatwa. And, we killed him now. So who knows what the next person in line is going to say. Explosions are being heard in Iran and Israel across several Middle Eastern states after the United States and Israel began attacking Iran on Saturday. I don't see if there's anything in here that we're not already aware of. Remember that I didn't already cover. Yeah, just scrolling through here real quick. Yeah, I don't really see anything. 3 U.S. soldiers killed, 5 wounded. Okay. Due to the rapidly evolving situation, all figures may change as more information becomes available. I might do a show later this week. Me and Nico will definitely be doing a stream sometime later this week, probably on Wednesday. Let me remove that. I don't think there's much else to cover. Yeah, sort of, but it's more like in a religious expert opinion. So once again, in Muslim countries, the way that they view religion is completely different than the way that we view it here in the United States, where we're mostly liberal, where we have like Christian values kind of instilled in the culture. They're a little bit more like institutionally religious. So they obviously take the fatwa very seriously because they haven't broken out for a nuke. And they only had, I don't know when they started uranium enrichment, but under Obama, they limited their uranium enrichment to 3.67%, which I think you only need, it's like 2 to 5% for not industrial grade, but like civilian grade for like powering hospitals and stuff like that, which is what they had for a long time. They had raised enrichment up to about 60% after leaving the JCPOA, which is hilarious because the whole goal of the JCPOA was to basically limit the uranium enrichment and get some sanctions relief on Iran. But Trump wanted to basically eliminate the uranium enrichment, but the JCPOA got you as close as about you're going to get. So Trump left that, and then the opposite of what he wanted actually happened, which is basically they started to enrich more uranium at a higher level. So they got to about 60%. And I don't think anybody really knows what the condition of the nuclear facilities in Iran are like right now, because after the 12-day war, they did bomb those, the ones in Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow. What they're like now, nobody knows. So let me check NBC one more time. 10 minutes ago. I'll refresh this. If there's any other news, give it another few minutes. So other than that, chat, please hit the like if you're here. Let me know how your weekend's going. Did you guys do anything cool? I went out Friday night. I took the wife and daughter with my dad and older brother to Smoky Bones. We got my little girl a steak, and watching a 7-month-old eat a steak is pretty cool. We had a really, really good time. And at first she was a little awkward about it, but she started smiling by the end of it. So smiling and laughing hysterically. So that just makes me really happy. Worked yesterday and then also met up with some friends at a bar near the house. It was the first time my friends got to meet my little girl. So we had a good time last night. Had a couple drinks. Didn't get wasted, but definitely got a little bit of a buzz. So it was cool. Had an old fashioned, 2 double crowns on the rocks. So that's about my usual. Maybe I'll do 3 drinks in a night, but I try not to get too trashed, because when I get trashed, I tend to act like an asshole if I get trashed. So, Lear Silver, Gage WL12, thank you guys for being channel members. Yeah, I got to get those socialization reps in early. Yeah, and honestly, we do try to socialize my daughter a lot. They were the 2 friends I met up with. The one would nanny kids, and she had mentioned like how, or no, I'm sorry, her husband, a good friend of mine, he had said that he's seen other kids who just like never really got socialized, and they're like almost autistic. We really try not to have my daughter fall into that, but like all signs are pointing to the fact that she seems pretty well socialized. Oh, Boris, that's awesome. There's one of the venues my band plays at actually had midget wrestling. Let me know how that goes, because I'm pretty interested. Next weekend, for all my friends who are listening right now, if you're in the Ohio area, my band's gonna be playing. Yeah. Actually, I don't think we talked about geopolitics last night, funny enough. But I'm gonna be playing at the Vortex in Akron, Ohio. Next Saturday, Brett Lindenfelser and his brother are going to be there with me. So they're friends of the channel. And, he supports me on Patreon, or not Patreon, but on Substack, which all you guys should go check out the Substack, The Great Megalodon, or just talk about heavy metal stuff. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We got an Airbnb. So, yeah, definitely if you're in the Ohio area, feel free to stop out. We'll have some drinks. We'll have a real good time. We did, however, the one girl, or the wife, she wanted to start talking to me about like raising kids in the way that, like, I don't want to say necessarily my relationship is ran, but she starts saying, "Oh, you're controlling, you're this and that, and oh, you wouldn't like a girl who makes more money than you." And it always goes back to, with a lot of women, you could see this in like the way that just women are nowadays, that like they're very liberal. And by liberal, I mean like they almost want to argue with you about biological facts. Like it's a biological fact that women are just engineered to raise children. Like I could not do what my wife does when it comes to raising my daughter. I can entertain her, I could feed her formula, I could change her diaper, but there is a certain bond that a mother and a daughter, or a mother and a kid have, that just a father and his kid don't have when they're a baby. There's just definitionally differences between mothers and fathers, and anybody that tries to tell you otherwise is full of shit. So, and I asked her at one point that, and I don't think I'm like unleashing like personal details. I'm not. This is just our conversation last night, but I said, if you could choose between breastfeeding and formula, what would you choose? And she said formula. And my opinion is that breastfeeding is much better for a child than, and it's not even my opinion. I mean, it's just like an undisputed fact. There's tons of research on this too, that like a breastfed baby does do better than a baby on formula. Does that mean formula is inherently bad? No, I've never said that. Food is food, but the touch of a baby's mouth on a woman's breast and the connection they get, and even the way that the immune system works between a mother and its mother and her child, um, is completely different than just feeding a baby formula. Like, these are clearly different things, and one is more optimal than the other. Does that mean that either one is bad? No, it just means that one is better than the other. It's like when you talk politics with people. I didn't vote this last election because I didn't think it was worth me supporting either candidate. So when I knocked Trump, um, common ground, because nah, no way, no way. We do have beanies and tank tops and stuff like that, but when I knock the president, people are, oh, well, Biden did this, Biden did, yeah, and that's bad too. You can think both are bad. That's okay. And I've gone out on a limb many, 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 many times and said that, like, if you had to vote this past election, the only person to vote for was Donald Trump. I've been on record saying that so many times now. I don't know how many more times I could say it. And I think I've honestly gone out of my way to compliment Trump when he gets things right. Like, there's been good deregulation in the automotive sector, which applies to my field. When it comes to CAFE standards for vehicles, and I covered this when I did the show, the Fountainhead Forum with Chris. Trump repealed the regulation for CAFE standards, or I shouldn't say repealed the regulation, but it used to be if you fell short of the expectations for CAFE, which corporate average fuel economy is what CAFE standards stand for. If you fell below a certain standard, then you could get fined for not meeting that standard. Well, Trump changed that fine to $0. That's a good thing. There was another decision that was just made recently about endangerment finding, and let me make sure I got this right. Actually, I'll pull up another Google AI search. Endangerment finding. Let me see definition. I want to make sure I got this right for you guys. The EPA 2009 endangerment finding is a formal science-based determination under the Clean Air Act that greenhouse gases threaten public health and welfare, acting as a legal foundation for federal regulation of emissions. It concluded that atmospheric concentrations of 6 key GHG endanger current and future generations, and that new motor vehicle emissions contribute to this pollution. So Trump actually repealed the endangerment finding, which actually is a big deal. And that's actually a good thing that he did do that, because now you can make vehicles a little bit more powerful and without so many emissions regulations. Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. So this was something that Trump did that was actually good. I'm not averse to complimenting politicians when they get things right. So I don't know, like, whenever people say, "Oh, you have Trump derangement syndrome," it's like, I think I knock Trump when I find it to be reasonable, and I compliment him when I find it to be reasonable as well. He's engaged in talks with Russia and Ukraine, which is better than the Biden administration. As far as Middle Eastern negotiations go, they've all been bad faith, but I mean, at least there's negotiations, and the amount of people that are getting killed by Israel now is significantly less than it was under Joe Biden, and even in the first half of Trump's term, or term so far. Those are good developments. Maybe auto prices will come down. Yeah, it's tough to say. The used car market is still just burning super hot because new vehicles are so fucking expensive. I mean, Jesus Christ, I look at the ones that I PDI and prep. Are all so fucking expensive. It's ridiculous. I don't know how people afford cars anymore. I mean, it's insane. So yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna wrap it up. I rambled, riffed and rambled here for about an hour now. So hopefully you guys feel a little bit more better informed. If you're a praying type, please pray for peace. Let's hope that this whole war situation kind of cools down and there is a good negotiation to an exit that allows everybody to kind of cool down and bring a little bit more peace to the region. To me, it doesn't look like it. So I don't know what's going to happen, man. But, I think Iran's going to continue to be on a rampage because I feel like they feel this is a fight for their survival. But nobody knows. I'll probably be back on with Nico on Wednesday. If you're in the Ohio area, once again, come out to Akron. We're going to be playing at the Vortex. We're going to be headlining. It'll be a good time. And if you're into heavy metal, you'll like A Common Crown. So go to acommoncrown.com and check us out there. Support me by going to tigerfitness.com. Use code Kyle at checkout. Of course, become a channel member if you'd be so kind. Leave a super chat. Leave a thumbs up. I appreciate everybody being here. And I think with that, Oh, 5 till midnight. Make sure you go subscribe to the 5 till midnight show, airing every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I think that's about it for me, guys. And thank you so much. And with that, everybody have a fantastic week and take care.